Today I'm going to be talking about the intersection of energy and the environment. And because this tends to be a bit of a polarizing issue, I thought it's probably important for me to start by letting you all know, full disclosure, exactly where I stand, so that there's no surprises once we get going. I'm what I consider a pragmatic environmentalist. That's what I call it, but my friends would more likely call it a hippie in a suit. And what that essentially means is I'm not happy unless my left-wing friends are calling me a corporate sellout, and my right-wing friends are calling me a tree hugger. And I don't take that position because I like riding the middle line particularly. I take that position because we are currently entering what is some of the most difficult challenges around energy and the environment that society's ever faced. And we can only overcome them if we have open, honest, frank dialogue around them. And you don't get that type of dialogue unless you get the hippies in the suits talking. It's true, it's true. But what I'm going to hone in on today is youth's role in that global dialogue, and particularly my generation's voice and its importance in solving the challenges that we will inevitably inherit. But before I get there, I want to step back and tell you a little bit about who I am and how I got here and where I came from. So I started working in the energy industry when I was 19 years old. And I can assure you that there is almost nothing more terrifying than walking up to a building that looks like this, with an energy company's name on the side, wearing a suit that you borrowed from your roommate, about to start your first office job in an industry that you know virtually nothing about. But what that job did for me was make me understand the importance of energy in society, and beyond that, just how diverse and complex the challenges facing it really are. And I always considered myself this good environmentalist, so working for big oil was a big internal battle for me. But as soon as I submersed myself in that, what I realized is that nothing in this world is black and white. We are dealing with shades of gray. And unless we have innovation and collaboration, we're never going to strike that balance between a healthy environment and a vibrant economy. And I had one other very important revelation, and this was probably the most important one. And that was that the industry is aging, and it desperately needs an injection of young passion and vision. So I got together with some university friends and I started talking to them about what we could do to encourage that young passion and vision to enter the industry and be the new talent that it needs. And what we came up with was actually quite a simple idea. We thought, let's put together a conference that brings students from all over the world together to talk about these issues, learn, debate, discuss, put them on the table, and then let them loose and see what it leads to. And what we came up with was the International Student Energy Summit, or ISIS for short. And ISIS has been run twice so far, once in Calgary, once in Vancouver, and we're in the process of planning our third overseas. And ISIS has so far brought together students from over 50 countries to talk about these issues and learn and debate and discuss and start tackling them today. And I can assure you that everything that occurred at those events was incredible because of the energy and dynamic of the room. But what was more incredible was the aftermath. Because almost as soon as ISIS ended, I started getting emails from students all over the world telling me about the initiatives that they had undertaken and how ISIS had empowered them to do that. And I'm not talking small things here. I'm talking things like advising the UN on energy poverty, or starting their own solar rural electrification companies. Big, tangible steps. And what that made me do is step back and think, well, maybe we're onto something here. What did we provide to these people that empowered them and gave them the drive and courage to start tackling the system today? And so I stepped back and dissected the experience. And I looked for the elements that would have done that. And what I found was three things: education, inspiration, and unity. I probably know what you're already thinking. Oh, those are some big buzzwords that are very hard to translate into real life. But the truth is they are actually quite easy once you know how to do it. And it starts with the end goal, which is action. And how action works is that it can take many different forms, and it's important to remember that small action and large action are equally important. So not everyone has to start a solar electrification company. Not everyone has to advise the UN. But just even incorporating sustainability into your daily life is a win and is action that's important. And we need action at all levels to reach the sustainable future that we need. And we get that by educating people. Now, it makes obvious sense that when people deeply understand an issue, they feel empowered to take it on and start coming up with solutions for it. But it goes beyond just understanding it in a textbook fashion and understanding the facts, because anyone can learn the facts. We need to humanize these issues. We need to see them from other people's perspectives. Because when we can see it for how it affects people, that's when we can truly internalize it. And I have a great example of this. At ISIS, we always host this panel that's called the Future Leaders Panel. And it's got half current leaders and half future leaders. And at one particular event, the topic had shifted to smart grid. And everyone was talking about the benefits of smart grid. They were saying, oh, you know, it reduces CO2 emissions and it's more efficient. And then one girl at the end from India piped up. She leaned forward and she said, I appreciate what you're saying and I respect it and I get it. But frankly, in India, we don't need smart grid, we need a grid. Because we can no longer have children doing their homework by candlelight. And as soon as she said that, it flipped the issue on its head. It made us all realize that we live in this little box where we're really comfortable. And that will only get you so far. You have to step outside of that box in order to truly internalize an issue and to see how it affects people and how you can go about changing it. Now, inspiration is one that I get a lot of questions on because it is a buzzword. People do think of inspiration and think, well, what exactly is inspiration? How do you describe inspiration? So I want to challenge you to think about inspiration in a bit of a different way. Think about inspiration in terms of intentions. Because the reason people do things matters. It's not enough anymore to say we need people in the industry. We need to change that and start saying we need people with conviction and vision and drive in the industry. And we only get there when we stop taking people in who say, I want a job, I want something to keep me busy. We need to move that mentality to letting them know that the choices that they make and the actions that they take matter. And they can indeed move people to changing the world. Thank you. And then there's unity. And now unity is the exact opposite problem of inspiration. Because unity, everyone gets. Everyone knows what connection is. But achieving it is so difficult. And it's difficult because we live in this hyper-individualistic world where we're constantly judged against other people and where we're trying to stand out and be a unique individual. And while it's important to have things that make you yourself and make you unique, it's all for naught if we can't contribute it to something bigger. And we need to move people from realizing that they are this individual to that they are a unique member of a movement or a community. And when we get them moving in that headspace, then they can see themselves acting to something bigger than themselves. And then it will bring us back to action. And what's funny about everything I've just said is that I got to this place because of energy and the environment and my passion. But it actually applies to any cause, to any movement, and to anything that we're trying to change. Because when people are truly educated and internalize and understand how it affects people, and when they're inspired to make change and they're connected with people who are also inspired to make change, that's when we see action. And when we have that, we get the change that we need for the future that we want. Thank you.